Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I have a very special episode of the Reality Revolution. I have the one and only Daniel Scranton. Hopefully you got a chance to listen to the recent channeling that I read, the Arcturian Council, and we talked about shifting into the fifth dimension. And it's an amazing group of channelings, and I'm really excited because I got permission to read more of these channelings. You probably have heard of Daniel from Giving Voice to the Wisdom of the Ages. One of my favorite channels. I just miss all of his amazing recordings. And I think a lot of people got tuned in at the right time when he was reading it. It felt very relevant and connected to everybody. And it was talking about the shift that we were experiencing. And that's what I found is that these channelings are timeless. And at the same time, they seem like they're very topical in what you're talking about. And they talk about the awakening process. A lot of them feel personally delivered. I'm sure that you've heard that, like people feel like they're personally being talked to. And you, unlike other channelers, channel multiple different channels. Some just focus on one. You're a verbal channel, a spiritual teacher, a sound healer. You've been channeling 12th dimensional non-physical collective known as the Creators since the fall of 2010. Since then, a wide array of other guides and collectives have spoken through him, and some of them include the Archangel Michael, Archangel Gabriel, Quan Yin, Yeshua, the Hathors, the Pleiadian High Council of Seven, the Arcturian Council, and the Creators, which I read a lot on your blog that you post. You have a daily blog at danielscranton.com. You're channeling all the time. And so I can't wait to get your perspective of what it's like to hear and be in tune with all of these amazing voices and what it's like to talk about your life with other people. So welcome to the Reality Revolution, Daniel.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to be here with you. And I discovered your channel months ago. I saw you channeling Paul Selig. It's probably one of the reasons why I started, I saw Paul in so many different interviews on YouTube, and I said, I got to check this guy's channeling out again. And I did, and I'm totally in love with Paul's channeling. I'm a connoisseur. I have so much respect for the form, of channeling, and I've loved so many Seth and Abraham and conversations with God, and now Paul, and of course Bashar too is I think
amazing.
Bashar and Paul are like neck and neck. I should say Melchizedek, or the guides, as Paul calls him, but I always call it Paul because I'm listening to him read his own channeling on Audible right now, so I'm hearing it in his voice.
Right. It's fascinating because you can go through the history of channelers, and he has that unique where he's kind of saying it twice, where he's like saying it and then saying it. And I just love that. You can see the translation process as he's doing it. And then when you listen to the book, it's totally different. You know what I mean? They both have a certain flavor.
And also what makes it unique is that he argues with Melchizedek
right
in his head, and then Melchizedek's like, he's interrupting again. It's just great. It's so the channeling is so amazing. I feel completely blessed that it happened to me, and I'm sure everybody wants to know how. How did it happen to this guy? And believe me, I wasn't expecting it. I was 38 years old. Everything started happening in 2010 for me. And it started with Reiki, just doing Reiki on people and realizing like, hey, my hands are moving by themselves. I'm not controlling my hand or my arm right now as it just passes over the person's body. Isn't that cool? And then, well, before that, I actually experienced a little jolt of energy when I was doing Reiki, and I was like, whoa, that's cool, that's interesting. I want more of that. So I just kept following the feeling, of like, this feels good, let me do more of this. Then my head started to do this while I was doing Reiki, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. But then I started making these little whispering sounds, like, and I was like, whoa, am I gonna channel? This is January of 2010. I had no expectation. And back then, I only knew Esther was doing it, Daryl Anka was doing it. Maybe I had heard of a few other people that had done it ever. Obviously, I'd heard of Jane Roberts, but I just I wasn't thinking I'm going to do this someday. I was just like the biggest fan of channeling, and I was following Esther around all over the planet on cruises and flying all over the US to go to her workshops. And then when it starts happening, it's just like I was in complete acceptance of it because I had no fear.
Hmm.
I didn't think I was never taught to fear it by anyone, so when you hear
Hmm.
people today going, well, how do you know, and what do you do to protect yourself? It's like I had no idea that was even a thing. I just knew it was good. I knew it was good because it was happening, because I was doing good things. It was happening because I was meditating. It was happening because I was doing energy work. I was attending Abraham workshops.
Hmm.
I wasn't busting out a Ouija board and trying to contact, whoever might be around. So then in March of that same year, so a couple months later, I'm going through a serious dark night of the soul, and I'm thinking about, how do I get out of here? How do I end my life? And the next night, not that night that I was crying, to myself about it all, but the next night I had this huge experience with ETs that changed my whole outlook on ETs, because I had only the knowledge of them that I had through Abraham, which was that they exist in other dimensions, and sometimes they come into our dimension, and then they come and then they leave. So I didn't think they mattered really to us and our development, our
Hmm.
spirituality. But then when I had my own experience with them, I got very curious, and my experience was they started to deliver pure ecstasy, energy that was beyond anything I've ever felt before or
Hmm.
since, that came in through my head, ran all the way down through my body and out my feet. And the reason I knew that it was ETs was because right prior to that, I was asleep and I was speaking in a dream to an Aber that I knew very well, named Peter, who was their cameraman at the time, and
Hmm.
he was way into ETs. And every time he talked about ETs, I just kind of like internally roll my eyes. And so I look at him in this dream, and we're just standing in a desert. And I said, I understand now about the other beings, and that's the totality of that dream. And then all this energy starts pouring into my body after I wake up. And I'm just like, I wonder what this has to do with that dream. I wonder what this has to do with aliens. And then as soon as I thought the word aliens, a huge surge of it went through me.
Hmm.
I start talking to them in my head. My eyes are still closed through this whole thing. And I'm asking questions. I'm getting answers. If it's yes, I get a huge surge of energy. If it's no, I get nothing. And then
Hmm.
finally, I was like, well, maybe I should open my eyes and see if I can see them in the room. I open my eyes, I look around, I don't see anything, but then the energy just starts pouring in again. And I don't know how long it went on for. It probably wasn't that long. It's hard to conceptualize what the time was
Yeah.
because of the nature of the experience. But after that, I got very interested in ETs. And I just decided, well, you're already meditating every day for an hour. Why don't you now meditate and see if you can get that feeling back? So that's basically how I began channeling, is by deciding I want that feeling back again. I know it's there. I know it's possible. Let me see if I can tune into it.
Wow. I've never heard it quite so it's directly related to energy more. It sounds like
Uh-huh.
yours was tuning into the energy than just the sounds, right? It's a kinesthetic type of thing that starts first.
Yeah, I didn't have any sounds.
Wow.
There was no conversation at all. It was all
Hmm.
me asking questions in my head. And the first thing I started saying to them was, more, please. No, the first thing was, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And my body was almost lifted off the bed because my back was arched to such an extent
Wow.
from the experience of it. And then it was, more, please, more, please, more, please, one more time, one more time. And then I started asking the questions and getting the
Right.
answers by surges of energy. And then, so that's March. By October, I'm sitting in the hot seat at an Abraham workshop. Again, I'm sitting there. I'm dry heaving during the first day of it because I'm
Yeah.
tuned into the energy, and it's coming. That's eventually that became like one of the signs that I was like really deep in a meditation, is that, or receiving energy, is that my body would just kind of convulse, which a lot of people again would be scared of. I wasn't
Yeah.
scared, but I was like, am I doing something wrong here? So the next day, I'm sitting there and my hand starts raising itself as Abraham's talking to somebody else in the hot seat. And I've never done that before. And as soon as she got up, my arm finished and they called on me and it was like magic. It was like,
Yeah.
like the feeling. And I got up there and I was no stranger to talking to Abraham. It was probably like my 16th time talking to them.
Wow.
But I was like, what's going on with me? What is this? And they said, you're going to do what Esther does. And, the first time I ever spoke to them was in Sedona. And they said, someday you will write many well received books. I
Let me,
had no intention, no
I'd love to
intention of
talk
writing.
to you about that because I love that we both have that in common because I've seen Esther live, and the reason
Yeah.
it was so incredible and why it was such an exhilarating experience for me was when the first time I saw her, I could see the energy. I could see the energy as
Oh,
she was standing there was like this huge cloud like coming through her. You could see it like all kind of gathering together, and there was like this stream that went
mm.
right through her, and I had never seen that. I can sometimes see it as like it was like multiple entities. They were all just kind of like it was this huge. It was a Abraham is definitely more than one. There's more than one. It's like a
Oh, yeah,
collective
it's a collective.
for
Yeah.
sure. And I could
Yeah.
see that. I understood what it was then. It was I thought I understood
Yeah.
all the times I've listened to it, but then I could see it. And I was wondering if you had that experience as well.
I haven't. And I've actually sat there at workshops where Esther has said, or Abraham has said, for those of you who can see energy, this is going to be quite a show. And they would like amplify it. And then you'd hear in
Okay.
the audience, ooh, and I'd be like, I don't see anything. So, like, I don't have all my gifts turned on, but for some
Right.
reason, I'm supposed to be doing this. I'm
Right.
supposed to be doing light language, which also happened unexpectedly. Didn't know what it was.
Hmm.
Just started coming through me one day while I was getting a massage. I didn't know that the massage therapist didn't know. Like, it was, I used to get massages and would move on the table the whole time. My
Right.
arms would just be like this. And then when I was lying face down, my arm would come up and slap me in the back with the back of my hand. I just was not, it was just like
Wow.
whenever I would go into a state of relaxation, things would happen like breath work class that my friend would teach. I'd be flopping around on the ground like a fish out of water, toning, speaking light language, all this stuff coming through.
Wow.
And I always loved it. I always thought it was the coolest thing ever. Like
Mhm.
one of my friends was like, the woman who led the breathwork class was like, you got to shut that off sometimes. And I'm like, I don't want to. Like, I like this. It's fun. It's exciting. It's interesting. And I never have felt like I was susceptible, vulnerable, anything like
Right.
that because I'm
Yeah,
open.
that's
I'm
my
open.
question. You've seen some channels that
Yeah.
clearly change. They start they're really cool, wonderful message. You start getting into it, and then it's like another entity has come in and they're channeling through that person, and they kind of slip through. And then in the law of one channelings, Carla Ruckert talks about this happening, where
Yeah.
there other and she so they started making it like a big deal that they checked the channeling, they challenged it, that they're, that you represent the highest ideal that I wish for, the highest love. Hers was Jesus Christ, but something like that, because it's a busy universe. There's a lot of entities out there, right? There's a lot of things you can end up channeling.
I think it's probably different for trance channelers, and I'm not a trance channeler as much as it looks
Ah,
like
right.
I'm in a trance and I'm allowing everything to happen. I'm allowing my fingers to do this and my arms to go up and the sounds to come through me. I'm not making any of those sounds. Those sounds are just generated by them coming through me, and that's the way it comes through. And I'm in complete control. If I have to itch my face, scratch my face, then I will, and it'll just go right back to this. But a trance channeler, it's probably a completely different ball of wax, and maybe because they're so out of it, they don't know exactly what's happening, what they're connecting to. But yeah, I haven't really heard of that actually. I mean,
Hmm.
I've heard people accuse others of it,
Right.
which I won't name names, but but I've heard that accusation being made. But I do understand also. I mean, here's an example that a client of mine and I were talking about just the other day, John of God. Like,
Hmm.
what happened? You know, like what happened with John of God? What did he just become power hungry and
Right.
greedy, or was it always like that for him? You know, we'll never know probably, but it's clear that something was rotten in the state of Denmark down there.
Right. And then also there are times that you hear channeling and know it's not authentic. And that's what's really interesting about the genre in general of channeling is that it's like a heart listening. Anybody that listens to or accesses a channeling, if it resonates with you, then you should follow it. And that's my
Yeah.
suggestion to anybody. If it doesn't resonate, just forget about it. But and so everybody is their own teacher and own student at the same time. And so you take responsibility for it. And so you're not telling people that to listen to you. People are coming to it because that message vibrates and answers something deep within them, right? It's a mutual thing that's happening when people are listening or reading your channelings, right?
Yeah, I never had to advertise really in, in any way, because you just put it out there and it's like throwing the spaghetti up at the wall to see what sticks. You know, people will resonate with it, or they'll call you a fraud and a charlatan, and
Right.
oh, this is just that, and this is not anything new. And you know, the negative comments don't bother me anymore, and I think it's probably because the preponderance of goodwill that's come to me because
Right.
of it. It's like it doesn't hurt anymore. In the early days, it hurt big time to see people's comments on YouTube and those who really like wanted to hurt me physically and stuff.
It
You know,
invites that kind of fandom. It's going to invite people. And 9 times out of 10, when I read those comments on a channel, I almost think they didn't listen. They were like just
it's
assumed that
hard
it
to.
was something, and they bring their own thing to it. So then essentially with each time, are you feeling something different with each of the different entities that you channel? Like, do you notice a subtle difference? Is it like, the taste of a cake? Some has lemon with it. Do you notice differences, and explain how that comes through?
There's basically like three, I think, distinct ones where you have the feminine ones. So the feminine ones for
Mhm.
me, Quan Yin, Ophelia the fairy, and believe it or not, Archangel Gabriel has come through in a feminine voice, and I didn't expect that.
Mhm.
But some people do think it's Gabriel and think that, you know, it's just been masculinized by the
Ah,
patriarchal church, you know.
right.
So, but it's always was Gabriel. So the feminine ones feel different from the masculine ones, Saint Germain. And yeah, that wasn't on your list because there's been new ones since I compiled that list for my bio. There's been Thymus and Saint Germain, and now Melchizedek is
Wow.
coming through me, and others have as well. And so they do feel different, but like Archangel Michael, Buddha, and Yeshua all kind of feel the same. They
So
all come through in the same way and sound the same too.
I didn't know that you had channeled Buddha either. That's awesome.
Yeah, some of my channeling I'm a little skeptical of, and I'm like I don't feel as confident in those as I do like the Arcturians I've been channeling for a very long time now,
Right.
and the creators even longer. So there's a level of like, okay, I'll channel them for anyone. But if some expert on Buddhism were to be like grilling me as I'm channeling Buddha, I don't know how well it's gonna,
Right. Right.
come through me because I'm not versed in any of that stuff. And it's kind of like people go to channelers and think, well, they know everything or they have access to everything, all information. But it's really not the case. It's really a
Mhm.
collaboration, and you've got to have the vocabulary and you've got to have some way of constructing that energy into a thought that contains words and forms a sentence. And, so the more a channeler educates themselves and exposes themselves to things, the more their palette is extended and they're capable of bringing through more information.
So you can seek out specific entities at any time, or do they come through and you just like let the entities choose when they come through? How does that work?
It's been different every time.
Yeah.
Really, some of them chose me. The Hathors I didn't choose. The founders I didn't choose. When Melchizedek came through, that was a surprise. Metatron was a surprise. Like other times, I've been asked to channel different
Hmm.
beings. So I was asked to channel Archangel Gabriel the first time. Archangel Michael kind of snuck in during someone else's retreat where they were channeling Archangel Michael. The creators were the first ones, and they didn't even give me a name. They're like, "You name us." So I had to come up with the name, the creators, which it took me like a year and a half to come up with.
Right.
And then Ophelia, I knew of fairies. I knew that they were out there and could be channeled because of my friend and mentor Nora Harrell doing it. And
Hmm.
then I was hiking one day in Pacific Palisades, and I was like, this trail seems like there's a lot of fairy energy on it. I'm gonna see if I can tune in, and I did. She was the first one I channeled after channeling the creators for a couple of years.
That's amazing. I'm sure it's exciting. You never know what you're going to get, and something's going to come through at different times. How do
It's
you
true, yeah.
visualize in your mind when you imagine a ninth dimensional being? Like, what's their world like? What do they? What is their consciousness like? If you're watching a movie with them in it, because I don't know how to make a thumbnail. The alien thumbnail is not obviously what they look like, right? They're like
You could
beings of
put
light. They don't have bodies, but how do you imagine it?
Well, you could put the red giant Arcturus on there,
Right.
and that carries that frequency. I was watching a movie called Passengers in the theater.
Hmm.
Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence,
I remember.
and they're on a ship, yeah, and they're going through space, and all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, we're passing by Arcturus," and they show it, and I start weeping, and I had no idea it was coming. And I'd been channeling them for probably a couple of years at that time, but it was like you just things can trigger. And I mean, I had a client today who was like, I just want to, they just feel so connected to the Arcturians, and it's like you don't know why, you just do. Like, I
Mhm.
don't know why I chose the Arcturians. I chose to channel them. I waited a while after I realized I wanted to actually do it. But then once I started doing it, it just felt so right to continue with it. But to answer your question, it's funny, Abraham has referred to themselves as a nebulous mist because, like,
Right.
that's kind of the idea we have of like a soul. It's kind of like a cloud, but even less solid than a cloud and more like misty. And the same with like these non physical collectives. You can't really picture a non physical collective consciousness because they have no body, they have no real location. The Arcturians say, yeah, we ascended within our star system of Arcturus, but now it's not like we hang out in Arcturus. We're everywhere and nowhere at the same time because they're non-local. They're not in a
Right.
space.
So, but it's been said in multiple channelings in other references that oftentimes people will go to Arcturus between incarnations.
Yeah.
It's a place to learn and heal, and it's like such a pure place. So I think a lot of people remember that. I think that's what there's a
Yeah.
large group of souls that have traveled through there, and it was very important to them. And it's that calling back, that memory of that experience, right?
Well, you know how they say that expression "as above, so below," and it's probably from the Bible, but it's so true that we have these like physical representations on Earth of how it really is in the larger sense and in throughout the universe. Like, for example, we have the birth of a child through the birth canal,
Mhm.
and we have what's called the Gate of Arcturus. And the Gate of Arcturus is like the birth canal. Like, every soul has to go through the Gate of Arcturus. And Bashar has said this. And Bashar was talking about that long before I started channeling, and Lisa Royal Holt too is another amazing channeler, talking about the gate of Arcturus long before I started channeling them. But it's this real thing that souls go through to come into the universe, to leave the universe, to be, it's like the tunnel that people see when they're dying, you know, that's the gate of Arcturus too.
Right. It's so amazing to talk about that and share that with another human being, to be able to share these type of concepts and talk about them. So I would love to hear you channel. I'm sure that the people watching would love to hear you channel. And so however you want to do it, I can ask questions, but sometimes I get the feeling like that you don't need necessarily questions. Some of them want to give you their message and they have one that's ready to go. Am I right?
They'll have a brief one. They're not going to go on and on for hours. You know, they'll come in and they'll say a few things, and then I think they'll throw it to you probably
All
to
right.
ask what questions are on your mind, because I'm sure you have them and the people watching have them. But before I start, I do want to repeat myself because I said this earlier, but none of what I'm about to do is my plan or my idea of what should be happening in those first 2.5 minutes. It's always been my process to channel has always been, I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to, you know, my intention is automatic, channel the Arcturians, and then they start moving things around and making those sounds. I never would have come up with e. That would that would not be my guess as to how to dial up the Arcturians.
Right.
And all the tones, like I've been toning since like 2012, but even that was just by accident. It was like just like the light language just happened, then the toning just happened as I was getting the creators one day, and I was like, holy cow, that's overtoning. Like I knew exactly what it was I was doing, but they were moving my tongue and my mouth and everything, jaw, lips, to make the sounds. So the sounds created are a part of the channel transmission that do have an effect on the listener. And if you really allow the sounds to move through you, then you'll get even more of a benefit from them. Okay, here we
I'm
go.
so excited.
much respect for humanity, and we know that the journey for all of you through your earthly lifetimes has been intense, to say the least. We know that those who have chosen to incarnate there on earth did so with great intention and really wanted to partake in the shift in consciousness from the ground floor level. You wanted to experience the polarity of planet Earth one last time before ascending into a higher dimensional state where the poles will be much closer together. It will still be a universe of duality, but you will have extremes that are far less extreme and much easier to manage. So when you go to one extreme there on Earth, it can be quite challenging for you to find your way back even to center, even to a neutral point. But when you are in the lower echelon of the vibrational scale, you do want to bring yourself up as best you can. You do want to allow yourself to rise up from those depths. And sometimes you don't know how to do it. You don't know what it will take. And you throw your hands up and you surrender to the experience that you are having. And remember, that is a key component in completing your journey there, is to accept, to say, all right, I guess this just is how it is. And I really have no choice but to surrender to it, to accept what is. And that then allows you to move past it. It allows you to rise above it and to get to that next level that you are moving into all the time. And a lot of times it means that your life circumstances will get better because now you have dropped your resistance, your angst, your resentment, your worry, your fear. You've dropped it all. You've let it go because you've had no choice but to accept the circumstances that are right in front of you. And doing that is a powerful act, even as a sovereign creator being, because you are not always creating your reality from that level of the mind. You are living out certain circumstances that got set into motion a long time ago that you do have to accept. And then once you accept them and you reach that point where you are in balance, where you can feel no negativity whatsoever, then you can create, then you can start to manifest more of the experiences that you do want. Because of course, when you came in to this life experience, the ball had already started rolling. There was a lot of momentum for humanity and life on planet Earth, and you chose your entry point very precisely. You wanted the exact minute and second of your birth to be what it was because you wanted to take on the particular challenges that would come your way from being born at that time, in that place, and to those parents, in that community, where you would have those teachers and those neighbors, and you knew the challenges that you would face. And of course, there's a lot of kicking and screaming involved. When you get there, there's a lot more temper tantrums early on in life, as you realize you don't have the same amount of freedom that you did before being born into that physical body. You don't have the same gifts and abilities and knowledge that you once did prior to deciding to incarnate. And there's an adjustment period. And those of you who are awake have not only adjusted to life on planet Earth, but you've decided that you can master the journey. You can determine for yourselves the direction you want to be headed in. And you are doing that. And you have to cut yourselves a lot of slack and be patient with yourselves and be easy on yourselves, because, as we said before, there's a lot that got going before you got there. There was a lot of momentum, and you are now learning how to work with the energies that are there, the energies that are present, through acceptance, and eventually getting yourselves to a place of unconditional love, where you can see it all as love, all as perfect, all as source energy. And then you can really start to determine for yourselves consciously and deliberately, yes, I would like more of this, and I would like to move in this direction. I'd like to see more of that in my reality. And then you can have those experiences through getting yourselves to that point where you recognize yourselves as the creators, but also as the ones who chose a very unique way of getting to that point of recognition that you do, in fact, create your reality. Very good. And now we will take your questions.
First of all, I'm honored to get the chance to speak to the Arcturian Council. Thank you for your wonderful words and the incredible benefit that they've made to me and the many others that are listening.
Well, it's our pleasure to connect.
My question is on the role of complexity as we move into the fifth dimension in this transitional phase. The duality of complexity and simplicity seems to be an integral part of it. The thoughts and ideas that we may have about a fifth dimension seem simplistic, but it seems as if complexity is its nature. So how do we embrace this complexity, and how does it work as we move into the fifth dimension?
Well, the good news is you don't have to figure it all out, and you don't even have to understand how it all works. In other words, you don't have to understand how your body digests and metabolizes food or spreads oxygen to all the cells in the body. You don't have to understand how any of that works in order to benefit from the fact that it is working, and it is quite complex. The physical body that you have, that you exist in, is a quite complicated piece of machinery, but lucky for you, all you have to do is keep feeding it and breathing and drinking fluids, and you'll be all right, as long as you do the things that you know you can do and you take care of what's right in front of you. And so as you use the simple approach to life of, I'm going to take care of what's right in front of me, I'm going to go with the flow, I'm going to feel into this, I'm going to see if this is something that I do feel inspired to take part in or not. And I'll listen to those feelings and I'll do what I can, but I won't have to know everything that's going to come from it before I take that first step. That first step doesn't have to be a leap of faith. It can be a small step in confidence, knowing that you're moving in the right direction and that everything will work out for you as you do.
You discuss creating your reality, and so I wanted to talk about creating the reality of the world in relation to creating my own interpersonal reality. And what should my focus be on? I might watch the news and feel great sadness, and I want to change that reality. But at the same time, I have things in my own life. And what is more effective, and how should I go about creating my reality? Should I exclusively be thinking about the world and the universe, or what's happening in my own life?
Well, you cannot help but be exposed to what is happening in the world. You cannot live in a rock or underneath a rock or in a cave and just ignore what's happening out there. But everything that's happening out there is meant to be a reflection to you of what's going on inside of you. So you can look at why that triggers me. Why do I feel sadness instead of anger there? How can I process this? How can I make peace with this? How can I accept it and move past it so that I can build that better world for myself and others? And you do accomplish that by paying more attention to what's going on inside of you and what your thoughts are, what your feelings are, what your beliefs are, what your vibration is. And you work on those things knowing that the world then that you're going to manifest in front of you is going to reflect those things back to you. So you use the outside world, which is your creation, to give you what you need to see, to know exactly what it is you need to work on, to vibrate in harmony with the world that you do want to experience. So it's all connected.
What technique would you suggest if I wanted to sit and work on creating my own reality? Maybe I wanted to go on a vacation, or I wanted to start a new business. I'm sitting right here. Give me the steps, or if you can, what process should I use to effectively change or create my reality?
Well, you want to slow down. You want to pay attention. In other words, as soon as you think about all the possibilities for what you could do for work or where you could go on vacation, your mind might get overwhelmed. You might feel that there's an information overload happening. So you want to slow down, get quiet, take some deep breaths, close your eyes, let it drop in, let the inspiration, the spontaneity of life come to you. Let it float into your awareness instead of doing what you've done for so long there on earth, which is make your list of pros and cons and look at a map and try to determine where is it where they have the best weather or the best of everything that I want. And instead, let the inspiration come. Let the universe talk to you. Let the synchronicities come to you. Let your guides nudge you in a particular direction by putting things in front of you time and time again that say, oh, I guess it is Hawaii this time because the signs are all pointing me to Hawaii.
Is there a way for me to connect to my guides with more efficiency or effectiveness?
Well, you want to see them as friends. You don't want to see them as these beings that are so much better and more advanced than you are and existing in their state of perfection. They're your friends. They're your co-creators. They're traveling alongside you in this life experience because they want to be there, because they want to help you. And as you remove that idea of them as being so much more than what you are, you can see that they are more on your level, more accessible to you as you tune into them, and you can feel for them as these warm spheres of light that hover over your shoulders and over the crown of your head. And you can invite them in. You can invite them into your body through an opening at the crown of your head and merge with them more and allow them to speak to you through your intuition, through your heart, through your feelings, through clairvoyant experiences, clairaudient experiences. But you don't have to dictate exactly how they're going to speak to you or determine for yourself what the best way is for them to do that. You just have to be open and pay attention and know that they are speaking to you. And the more you speak to them and speak to them out loud, the more that show of faith on your part makes it more real to you that they do in fact exist. And so you're speaking to them out loud for your benefit, not for theirs, but because that is demonstrating to yourself, yes, I do believe they're out there and I do believe that they're listening, and I will pay attention to all the signs and synchronicities that I'm getting.
Can you help me to find the love in the moment more often, to remember to find it, to look for it, to focus on it, to become it? Oftentimes I'm aware academically and intellectually that I want to find the love, and that's the focus of my life, but I often forget. So how can I find the love in the moment?
Well, the first thing you want to do when you wake up in the morning is to set that intention to look for that which is easy for you to love, easy for you to appreciate, to look for that which gives you joy. And the less you are existing in your head, thinking about the past, worrying about the future, the more you're spending that time in that heart-centered place where you're in the present moment, the more likely you are then to notice, oh, there's a rainbow, there's a butterfly, there's a beautiful flower, there's a nice cool breeze on a summer day. There's always something there, and you get more of it when you're mindful of the moment, paying attention to what is present and having set that intention, which you sometimes need to remind yourself of. As you noticed here, you need to remind yourself, this is what my intention is for today. It's to look for those things that I will appreciate, that put me more into my heart-centered space, and that allow me to feel the love that I truly am.
In this day and age, it can feel like we don't have enough time, and there's constant worry that takes us away from our true spiritual endeavors. And there's a feeling of lack of our ability to find that spiritual time for our ascension and awakening. How do we deal with the lack of time and stresses that we might have in this busy world that we live in?
Well, lucky for you, you have to breathe. You have to breathe. And if you can just focus on your breathing, then you can be having a spiritual experience while doing anything. And you always have the ability to feel. You always have the ability to focus. You always have the ability to open up at your crown to receive what energies are present. And so this is true no matter what you are doing. And when you do feel overwhelmed by how much you have to do, then you can also remind yourself, I've been in this position before where I've had a lot on my plate and I've always gotten everything done. And the house of cards never did come tumbling down upon me. I always was able to keep all the plates spinning. And it's such a nice feeling of satisfaction and completion when I do get everything done. And so I'm glad that I have a lot to do. I'm glad that I get to participate in life in so many ways. And I will find the ways that I have to be a more spiritual being in every moment. And I will cherish those moments when I do have time to meditate or to connect with nature or to do some yoga or whatever it is that brings you into a state where you know you're accessing more of your spiritual practices.
What are stories like in the fifth dimension when there's an all knowing? Are there stories? Is there entertainment? Is there movies?
Yes.
Arcturus? All right.
Yes. In the fifth dimension, which you are headed for, you will be creating stories, you will be creating music. It will be very collaborative. Your films and your television and your music, they already are very collaborative. It's very rare for someone to do something all by themselves that reaches millions of people. So imagine coming together with all the right people in the right moment to make that work of art that shows how easy it is for you to co-create when you're all in alignment, when you're all vibrating at a higher frequency. And those stories will be about where you're headed next. You're still on an ascension journey. Even when you reach the fifth dimension, you're still going to be growing and expanding and evolving even more into your sixth dimensional self. You'll be accessing your new abilities, and some of those stories are about people accessing those new abilities, going to new places, finding new ways to do things that are interesting and exciting to them. So there's still going to be challenges and there will still be desires and things that people want, and those are what make up the vast majority of the very good stories that you have on Earth.
I wanted to relate a struggle that I have, and maybe others that are watching have a similar struggle. because I'm often distracted with stories that I'm writing and that I'm watching. And I get into a fantasy world of stories in my mind. And I then feel guilty that I'm ignoring the world. I'm falling into a sinkhole of indifference, but these stories serve me and can serve others. And so tell me, in that world, can I serve others by telling stories?
Of course, yes. And of course, those stories that reach millions and millions of people have changed lives and changed lives for the better. And those people who created those stories were tapping into exactly what was needed by those who would watch and listen to and read those stories. And so you're not removing yourself from reality. You're just creating a reality that is more to your liking. And it is absolutely your joy to be doing that, or else you wouldn't find yourself doing it so much. And so that little part of you that's saying, no, maybe you should be doing something else. Maybe you should be participating more in the real world. That's just a guilty conscience that you don't need and that doesn't really serve you in any way.
My question is how in the fifth dimension or even now I can access the wisdom of my ancestors beyond my guides, and if that's available to us, and how I go about doing that.
Well, it's by starting to acknowledge that they exist, that they are on your team, that they do want to help, imagining them helping you in all the ways that they can, seeing yourself as a multifaceted, multidimensional being, a being that exists in many realities all at once, and knowing that all parts of you, all connections that you've ever made in any lifetime, and all versions of your soul that are out there right now are all contributing to the journey that you are on in this body. And so as you open up to receive the help that is there, and you don't have to even get so specific as to say, well, I want the help to be from my ancestors. It could be coming from your future selves, it could be coming from your parallel selves. Any aspect of your soul that is out there right now is contributing to the overall journey that you are on, and you can benefit by acknowledging that they are there, that you do have help, and that you can receive help just by opening yourself up and relaxing into it.
I wanted to ask about the role of memory when I'm shifting into alternate timelines. There have been times when I've had multiple memories, or it felt like things shifted away, or objects were different, or buildings had changed, movies were changing. And I was wondering about the role of these changes in my process of shifting into alternate timelines and how I should deal with the changes in memory.
Well, it's to show you that it's possible, that it's happening all the time. That's what the Mandela effect is for. It's to show you that you are doing it, that jumping timelines is not just something for science fiction. It's happening, and it's been happening. And if you did it once before, you can do it again. And yes, sometimes it takes a while for those memories to fill in correctly for the timeline that you're on. And it can be challenging for the mind to catch up. But what's fascinating about it is showing you that this timeline jumping thing is a real thing that you're experiencing all the time.
You may not be able to tell me, but I would love to know how I can travel faster than the speed of light within my physical body. Is it possible?
You don't need to. So you don't need to break that law because you don't need your body. You can, there's another body waiting where you want to go at the other end of that journey that you want to take faster than the speed of light. So just go to that body, and you can skip over the part where you have to do something that seems impossible for you to do because you're trying to take something that is more solid and move it faster than something that is light.
How do I awaken my abilities? What is the best ways for me to do that?
Well, every day you want to set aside time to do just that, to awaken your abilities, to get quiet, to breathe consciously, to put yourself in a higher vibrational state, and to set that intention. And if you do it in a place and at a time that makes it more believable for you that it would happen. For example, sitting under a tree or in a bathtub or first thing in the morning or last thing in the evening. These are good times and places to be seeking to access those gifts and abilities when you're more open, you're more relaxed, there's less going on and less thought forms around. These are the key components for you in accessing what is already yours. It's yours for the taking. You just have to make yourself available to these gifts and abilities that are certainly within you and ready to be unlocked.
This is an odd question, but the concept of non-player characters it appears that sometimes there are beings that are interacting in my environment that are not conscious. I was wondering if this is a real phenomenon, or am I just observing it incorrectly?
Well, it is your observation. It is that they're probably not going to be a big player in your story, but they have agreed to send a portion of their soul to that body to be in your story. It doesn't make them less real. It just means that if you're not going to interact with them, and because your reality is your reality and they're co-creating it with you by agreement, they don't have to send a whole heck of a lot of their soul to that body that is in that moment real for you, but is not someone that you're probably going to interact with in that moment. And so it's just about conserving that soul's energy.
Are there dreams and visions that that is very common to experience in the ascension process?
Well, certainly the dreams of flight and the dreams of meeting ETs are two of those dreams. Dreams also where you are accessing your gifts and abilities are indicative of the ascension that you are a part of right now. So anything that is showing you what you're moving towards is also showing you that you are moving in that right direction. Now, people who have dreams of cataclysms are tapping into Atlantis, they're tapping into Lemuria, they're tapping into other lifetimes like Pompeii, where they have had that experience before of catastrophic occurrences, and they feel that maybe they're moving towards it and not moving from it, but they are in fact processing what already has been a part of the human experience.
Is there anything that humans on Earth are not aware of? Is there a big secret of any kind that is being held back from us that would help us to ascend faster?
Well, it is not a secret that you are source energy beings, but many of you keep that from yourselves, even as awakened souls. You don't hold it in the forefront of your consciousness enough to really live in accordance with that truth. And as you do that, then you have access to all knowledge, all power, and can be in any place at any time. And so the universe then becomes your playground when you're not clinging so much to an older version of reality where you're just this human being who's going to live for a certain number of decades on planet Earth and then expire and possibly never exist again. So that's the big secret that's being revealed in so many ways now that it's hard to ignore for people. It's hard for people not to know who they are. But certainly, once you know that, then you know no one else is doing this to me. No one else is creating my reality. It is all me, and it's all up to me to create it the way I want it to be.
In the process of shifting to the fifth dimension, is that something that we're going to experience in our next incarnation, or will I experience it in body in this incarnation? Will I know for sure that I'm in the fifth dimension, or will it be a slow process where we shift from fourth to fifth, like a drop of water every day, slowly every day, or is it a sudden shift?
That is how it's happening. But when it's complete, you will know it. So when you complete the shift, it will be an unmistakable transition that you've made. Now, not everyone will complete the shift in this lifetime. There are people dying right now in this very moment that we are speaking to you. But if you decide that you want to stick around for the shift and you want to contribute in the way that you can to the raising of consciousness, then yes, you absolutely, with that belief that you can, you will shift in this lifetime and in that body.
Well, I just want to thank you for answering all of these questions. It's been a really great honor to speak with you, and thank you for sharing your time.
Yes, you're very welcome. We are the Arcturian Council, and we have enjoyed connecting with you.
So tell me, do your arms sometimes, you like when you come out of it, your arms get tired? Like I got, shoulder
I
and something.
feel it right now. Yeah, I feel it a little bit in my in my shoulder blades behind my on my back. Yeah, but
So is it different
while
with
it's
different
happening,
when you're doing the
what's that?
creators? Is it different? Like when you're doing the creators, or
No,
it's the it's
no, it's not. It's changed
I
over the years, which is funny.
yeah,
Like I used to channel at these events, and I would be dancing like a belly dancer while I'd be channeling,
yeah.
just constant
I can see
movement
the
like
energy.
this.
I can see you interacting with it. That's what
Yeah,
I can see it. So that's what
oh,
was very
that's great.
interesting. It's very
That's a
cool.
gift.
Well, yeah, the Arcturians and other channeled entities are just essentially energy that you're interacting with. And I think that you teach others how to channel, and everybody's a little bit different. And then, so you have a class coming up, I believe,
Mhm.
in late August. My good friend Dana has taken your class on channeling, and you have a channeling course. Is that right?
That's right. It starts August 29th. It's called the Learn to Channel Mega Course. So it's at danielscranton.com/mega. And it's 9 classes, 2 hours each class on Zoom. They're all recorded. So most people can't attend all of them live, but they always get the recordings afterwards sent via email. And it's video. I'm on video. You don't have to be if you don't want to be. You can always show up in your pajamas with your camera off. And I basically go through 9 of these classes. I separate them by a month, so I give people time to absorb the information, use it to grow as a channeler so that they can come to the next class prepared for what's going to be next and with questions if they have them. So it's intro to channeling, and then there's one on toning, and then light language, and then channeling your higher self, your spirit guides, ascended masters, archangels, fairies, and other, all the fairy beings, the mermaids, unicorns, and then ETs is the last class.
Amazing. So if you're out there and you want to channel, this is a really great place to go. I would recommend Daniel highly. I'm super excited to read some. I've already done a couple more episodes that are on the way,
Oh, really?
and about the galactic origin, and they mentioned the Orion Wars and
No.
Atlantis and Lemuria and cool stuff like that. And there's just so much. So I'm excited to share these channelings. I know we have a community that loves this kind of information, and they really relate to it. And so it comes from a loving place, and you can, and I resonate with it. So thank you.
It's been nice to see the comments under the first one. They've just, I'm just blown away. People are saying I listened 3 times, and I'm just like, wow, that's just amazing, and I'm so humbled and flattered, and yeah, I'm really glad that we got connected by
It's the most
Fox
interesting
slash
thing,
Dana.
reading someone else's channeling. I get
Yeah.
something out of it. Like it's when I've done it with the law of one too, but there's an energetic thing that happens when I read it, and when other people hear me reading it, there's something else beyond just the message. It's always an activation that's going on within it. I can feel it because the particular group of words, they have an effect like a combination lock.
Yeah.
I've heard that a lot when I've read channelings on my channel.
True, true. And there's so much more being offered than what's being said too, which people probably don't normally think about when it comes to channeling. They think, well, it's whatever words are there, that's what's being communicated. But and Wendy Kennedy's Pleiadians will say this, that if the channeling is, it was a beautiful day, then what is actually included in that sentence is the birds were singing, the sun was shining, there was a light dew on the grass, there was a breeze in the air that was calm and comforting. There's like so much more that's coming through. And if you listen and you feel for what's coming through, there is an energetic transmission. And that is why my voice changes. It is because it's not it's there's more of a presence. It's a different energy. There's something being communicated by the tone of the voice and the toning as well.
Well, thank you so much for sharing this time with me, and hopefully we get a chance to talk some more after we as a group access these channelings a little bit, and I'm sure that I would love
We
to
could
do
do
that.
it live or something. People could ask questions.
That would be amazing. I would love to do that. So let's put that on the calendar. So I'll definitely talk to you soon.
Okay.
And just so jealous that you get to sit there in Australia, such a beautiful place. So
it is.
Thank you so much, and welcome to the Reality Revolution.
Thank you, Brian. My pleasure.